Hello everyone, I'm Sinai Maciel. In this podcast, I'll talk about cartoon theories and I'll tell you what I think, and if I can, I will debunk them, or they might end up just being a mystery. Spoiler warning for some: if you plan on watching the shows from this podcast, or if you haven't watched it already, please leave and go watch the show and come back when you're ready. Disclaimer: these theories aren't mine. They are on popular demand and I'm just reading websites and talking about the theory. I'm also telling you what I think, but also informing you at the same time. For this episode, we are going to talk about the following cartoons: Gravity Falls, SpongeBob, Adventure Time, Fairly Odd Parents, and last but not least, Johnny Bravo. Be ready because some of these theories might just ruin your childhood cartoon. Some of these theories might not be right, so don't get mad because we're just trying to have fun. Alright, so first theory is going to be about Gravity Falls. Dipper is not the pine tree symbol on the cipher. As some of you would know, at the end of the show, the characters Stanley, Stanford, Mabel, Dipper, Windy, Robbie, Pacifica, Gideon, McGucket, and Seuss had to step on the cipher according to their symbol. But what if Windy and Dipper stood on the wrong symbol? Fans think that Windy was supposed to be on the pine tree and Dipper was supposed to step on the ice bag. The reason this was brought up is because Windy's family are lumberjacks and Windy is seen mostly outdoors, making her an outdoorsy type, so a pine tree would match her, especially since in the last episode, Dipper and Windy switched hats. For Dipper's case, keeping his cool is a very important part of his character throughout the show. The ice bag can represent someone who keeps their cool under pressure. While Windy does kind of match that description, it is stated that she is actually really stressed in the episode Society of the Blind Eye. Either way, dealing with pressure was one of Dipper's character arcs. I kind of like this theory because it just adds more to the show. Gravity Falls is one of those shows I grew up with when I was younger, so it's so sad that they aren't going to make any more episodes. But it would have been very amazing if the show had continued, and to imagine all the crazy plot twists, not to mention all the theories that people would come up with. For the next theory is a SpongeBob theory, and this theory states that the SpongeBob characters are actually the 7 deadly sins. For example, SpongeBob would be lust, and if you don't know what lust is, it means a very strong sexual desire. But in SpongeBob's case, he just has this love and kindness towards everyone, especially Squidward. Not only does he love everyone, he loves his underpaid job as well. SpongeBob is just full of love and happiness and loves to share it with everyone. Sandy is pride. Pride is a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction driven from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. She is highly competitive, has a big ego, and is very proud of her Texas heritage. She even wrote a song about missing Texas and tries to relate everything with Texas. She even has an episode where she gets really upset at SpongeBob and Patrick for making fun of Texas and chases them down. Mr. Krabs would be greed, which is pretty obvious. Greed is an intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. He is always worried about his money and really possessive over it. He would even trade SpongeBob for a couple of cents, which he soon later regrets. Mr. Krabs underpays his workers and never likes giving away his money. I think the only person that he gives his money to without hesitation would be Pearl, his daughter. But there are some episodes out there that are dedicated to show Mr. Krabs' obsessiveness over his money. Plankton is envy, a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's passions, qualities, or luck. We all know Plankton is always trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula. It is obvious that Plankton is envious of Mr. Krabs' success. He is willing to do anything to get the secret formula. The business he has is a failure, and instead of creating something new that would help him become successful, he'd rather take the success from others. Plankton is so desperate for Mr. Krabs' secret formula that he lets his envy take over and ruin the friendship that he had with Mr. Krabs. Gary is gluttony, and gluttony is habitual greed or excess in eating. He is always asking for food and is able to eat a whole mountain of food in one bite. In the episode Treats, Gary is willing to do anything just to be able to get a treat of Snell Bites, and when SpongeBob ran out of treats, Gary kept annoying SpongeBob to go get more. Gary is always after food and would leave just for food. Gary even backstabs SpongeBob just for the cookie in Patrick's pocket. Next is Squidward, and he would be best described as wrath, which is extreme anger. In every episode, he always expresses his hatred to everyone and everything around him. There are times where he is happy and joyful with SpongeBob and everyone else, but it never really lasts long. Squidward even sang a song about how he hates people and how people hate him. Patrick is sloth, which is excessive laziness, and we all know that is something Patrick is really good at. Even at one point, he got an award for doing absolutely nothing. Sloth really does fit Patrick's description. He lives under a rock, he sleeps all day, and is just overall lazy. To top it all off, Patrick doesn't work and is most likely living off of SpongeBob. No hate to Patrick though. If I could live just like Patrick, I would. I love that all these connections make sense, like I could see it. If you were to tell me that this theory is not true, then there's no way I'd believe you. It's too on point. I think my favorite theory from this would be Gary, because before I knew about this theory, I never thought about Gary being gluttonous. But now that I look back on the episodes, it's kind of hard to miss. When I would see him eat like the whole bowl in one bite, I never took it for being gluttonous. I just took it as more of he's a pet and it's just for comedy. But it all makes sense now. Moving on to the next theory. Adventure Time and the Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack are in the same universe. Flapjack's Dogtown, Stormwong Harbor, was probably built after the Mushroom War mentioned in Adventure Time. The events of both shows are happening on the same timeline, which could explain some cracks within the show's side stories. The Candy Island they saw in Flapjack was actually just Candy Kingdom. Peppermint Larry has been to Candy Kingdom and probably uses Princess Bubblegum as some sort of amuse for his candy wife. It's possible that Penn's work on Flapjack inspired some elements in Adventure Time, and a reason these two shows never collided could be due to Finn's fear of the ocean. But also, Candy Island didn't look too much like Candy Kingdom, so this conspiracy isn't necessarily possible or impossible. I think this theory has to be one of my favorites because it involves two shows I loved so much and grew up with, and to imagine that they probably had a chance to cross over would have been an amazing episode to watch. Also, I'm going to count this theory as an Adventure Time theory and not a Flapjack theory, but in the next episode I'll be doing a theory on Flapjack, so if you would like to listen to a Flapjack theory, go ahead and tune into the next episode. But till then, here is the next theory. This next theory is about how Johnny Bravo is actually a child. This theory suggests that Johnny Bravo is just a 6-year-old kid who impersonates famous rock musicians or pretends to do things he saw on TV, like making poses or flexing his muscles. This would explain why Johnny still lives at home with his mother and why his only friend is the neighbor's daughter, little Susie. It is also probably the biggest reason why Johnny never gets the ladies, as whenever he hits on them, they pass it off as him playing and being cute, or just simply ignoring him. And have you seen the way these women react when they reject him? Why will women hit him in ways they would get arrested if Johnny was actually a child? Well, what if that's just the way he imagines the feeling of rejection, as if it was physical pain? On to the last but not least cartoon theory. Could wishing be causing Cosmo to be dumb? When Fairly Odd Parents first appeared on Oh Yeah cartoons, Cosmo and Wanda seemed to be the pretty smart pair, but as the show's plot progressed and Cosmo's magical use had increased, he seemed to be getting dumber by the season. Timmy is always wishing, and Cosmo is carelessly granting dumb wishes. Wanda has also gotten slightly dumber, but it's all Cosmo. Cosmo uses his magic constantly, not really giving it time to refill, taking its toll on Cosmo. In the rules, there is a rule where you can't underwish because that would cause a buildup in the steady energy flow of magic. And they can't overwish because this will keep the fairies constantly drained. Though, that rule is flexible because there really isn't a limit. It's just a great precaution that Cosmo, Wanda, and Timmy neglect. Timmy has also made a song of 1 million wishes. So we know that Cosmo and Wanda, especially Cosmo, had granted a lot of wishes. Could Timmy Turner's wishes be affecting Cosmo's intelligence? This theory is kind of sad to me, and I would like to think that it's not true. And I don't really have much to say for this theory, so I'm going to end the episode here. Thank you all for listening, and if you all enjoyed it, please tune into the next episode of my podcast for next week. I hope everyone has a good day or night.